Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Eagle Productions Hope Derek EPHD, your podcast regarding the federal government of the United States and why we should have hope for the future of the United States and the future of all of our tomorrows. You see, this first episode is going to be on tariffs. And again, every problem the United States is facing is conquerable. We can do it. Back when President Donald Trump first ran in 2015 and 2016, he was a vociferous advocate for tariffs. He said that the United States was treated unfairly, with the discrepancies of what the United States was imposing on other countries compared to what they're imposing on us. And then when he was elected as president and during his first term, he continued that fierce advocacy and would then instill different tariffs on different regimes and touted the success of those. And then when he was reelected in 2024, and now during his first term as presidency now in 2025, he has exactly implemented what he wanted to do. During his first State of the Union address on March of 2025, of his second term, he said on April 2nd he was going to impose sweeping tariffs against countries throughout the world. On April 2nd, he fulfilled that promise. As a result, both business leaders, world markets, global markets, businesses all over the world, including investors here in the United States and the media, they have all gone crazy, for lack of a better word. And the stock market, it dropped significantly after it was first imposed. And then on April 9th, he paused those tariffs while simultaneously hiking up the tariffs that were done against China. Now, as Senator Cruz reported on his podcast along with Ben Ferguson, a trade war would be catastrophic. If the global countries retaliated against the United States by hiking up their tariffs, and then the United States would then correspondingly hike their tariffs up, and it would just be a hike. That's called trade war, and that would be catastrophic. You see, tariffs are what the consumers pay. There's a tariff imposed against the United States. We, the taxpayers, are paying that. And each time it's sparked higher, and that higher war is fueled by other countries trying to compete against us, that means we, the taxpayers, are going to pay higher tariffs. Now, on April 9th, President Donald J. Trump paused those, gave a 90-day pause, and numerous countries, starting with Vietnam, are now negotiating different rates. Now, some counter-arguments are that on April 2nd, when President Donald Trump announced the tariffs, was that the numbers he reported in the Rose Garden of the White House, that's where he announced this on April 2nd, the numbers he presented to the American public were false. They weren't accurate. So that's one weakness, that some countries, such as Israel, according to Ben Shapiro, don't have any tariffs right now. Therefore, there's no room for negotiation there. And then another argument is, well, as Bill Ackman said, who is a supporter of Donald Trump, and he's a corporate executive officer of Pershing Square Capital Management, and he did acknowledge that there is a trade deficit and there are problems with the global markets compared to the United States with tariffs and different issues like that. And as a result, the United States have lost an innumerable amount of jobs foreign to foreign nations, as well as economic growth, quote, economic growth in our country, close quote. And an issue, though, by pushing this so fast and so quickly and so fiercely, is that it is causing such a instability and anxiety in the markets that it's causing investors to be apprehensive to invest and predict for future business outcomes. So according to Corporate Executive Officer Bill Ackman, this anxiety and uncertainty in the market is extremely concerning. It doesn't bring confidence and stability. And allegedly, that is a problem with the stock market and the world economy, particularly the United States economy. Moreover, the corporate executive officer of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, said that before the pause, these tariffs that President Donald Trump imposed would likely lead to a recession, which would be a disaster, and that is multiple quarters of no economic growth. And in the multiple quarters of no economic growth, I received that fact from Senator Cruz's podcast with Ben Ferguson. And if those tariffs, or there was a trade war, we would have multiple quarters of no economic growth. That means that the United States would be in a recession, and that would be catastrophic. However, with Donald Trump pausing these tariffs, the stock market in one day saw the greatest raise in the history of the United States. And in this 90 days, the Trump administration is now negotiating with countless countries with the hopes of reducing these trade deficits the United States is facing. In this upcoming week, we're going to dive into each of these specifics. We're going to dive into, are the numbers President Donald Trump showed us, the American people, on April 2nd, are they actually accurate? And if they're not accurate, what are the true numbers? Moreover, we're going to see what are the actual problems with tariffs in the United States. We're going to see, will the United States, as Corporate Executive Officer Diamond right, that will lead to a recession if there wasn't a pause? We're going to dive into this upcoming week. And again, we can overcome this problem. The United States has over $30 trillion in debt, according to CNN, the Wall Street Journal, and even the United States government reporting themselves. And I commend President Donald Trump for tackling this issue and trying his best to reduce the national debt. And I want everyone listening here to know this problem with the national debt in the United States, this tariff issue with the United States, and everything we're facing as a country, we can overcome it, and we will overcome it. Thank you for joining us for the first episode, and stay tuned. The second episode will come soon.